and 7, we've got your imminent health hazard. And I said, well, that's supposed to be answered in a week of 10 days. I said, then you can go back 8 years with the citizens' petition for ban. That's supposed to be answered in 180 days that you have it answered. And I said, I lecture all over the world, and people are sick and dying. And the FDA actually says to me, so what? We need to depopulate. So this is the reason.
I'm sorry, they needed the what?
Depopulate.
Go ahead, with copyright. What's copyright have to do with that?
Depopulate. In other words, they wanted to get rid of humans, to depopulate.
Did they really say that?
They actually said that. So they really just don't care.
No, they do care. They know what they're doing. I mean, one thing, if you didn't care, would be one thing. If it did, it would be another thing. An active program of genocide, just like Adolf Hitler was carrying out, which was intentionally killing people because, of course, they wanted to purify the gene pool. But these ideas all tie into eugenics and depopulation. And certainly Adolf Hitler was a piker next to the FDA.
Well, they told me it's just not going to happen, and so they serve above the law. I just got through sending them this morning a whole stack of independent studies, and I said, you always say that if some kind of harm is shown with aspartame, that you would be the first to do something about it. I said, here's 30 years of independent studies showing everything from cancer to birth defects, and you do absolutely nothing about it. And I said, after you review these, we can send you another stack of independent studies. And the European Food Safety Authority sent them as well, because they deny any study. It doesn't matter how many there are and what they show. So they've just denied the third Ramazini study showing cancer, and it's so well known that even Dr. Adrian Gross told Congress years ago that aspartame violated the Delaney Amendment because it caused cancer, therefore that no allowable daily intake should have been able to set up. And if the FDA violates its own law, who's left to protect the public?
But I think when people understand that there really is a depopulation agenda, there really are people out there who want to kill off the majority of the people in the world. One only has to go to Elberton, Georgia, and see the Georgia Guidestones. One only has to, of course, to read the writings of people like David Graeber and David Foreman, and listen to the tape of Sam Kean, who called Dr. Sam Kean at the Gorbachev's State of the World Forum in 1995, calling for the elimination of 95% of the world population. Eric Pianka, Professor Eric Pianka at the University of Texas, calling for the elimination of 90% of the world population. And, of course, Prince Philip, the consort that married to the Queen of England, who said if he comes back in reincarnation, he wants to come back as a virus so he can kill people. This is the mentality of the black nobility of Europe, those dark-hearted people who make the royalty. Our telephone number, 800-259-5791. Well, Dr. Stan here. Our guest, of course, is Betty Martini. We're talking about the deadly poison that they're using to depopulate America, the harm to destroy the minds of our children, to predispose people to cancer, predispose people to pathological obesity. I love all this talk about, oh my goodness, look at all those fat people, and then of course we're going to have all these programs of the Biggest Loser, and basically, of course, we got all the people exercising and cutting back on their diet. Certainly, we know that this product introduced into food causes pathological obesity in animals. In fact, Betty, don't they even give the aspartame to cattle to fatten them up so that they'll have more fat on them when they're going to be slaughtered?
Well, it's interesting because there's been a new article about that, speaking about neotame, which is a more potent version of aspartame. And I spoke to the USDA, and they said that they think that Monsanto, for some reason, started saying that, and we can't seem to come to the bottom line as to what's true or not. So I've written a FOIA to the FDA asking them, because neotame itself, it is rumored, is not even labeled. And then, of course, they're trying to get Advantame, and even another aspartame product on the market. And so you can't even use processed foods or things that have natural and artificial flavors, because it could be hidden in these.
And basically, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to get away from processed foods. You've got to make it your own food. I used to think these people are talking about organically grown food and growing your own food in the garden were a little bit loony. I suddenly realized they're a lot smarter than most physicians. But let's go to Larry, who's calling us from Arizona. Larry from Arizona, how are you hearing us there in Arizona? Shortwave internet, or is there a station there carrying us?
On the GCN live stream.
On where?
On the GCN live stream.
Okay, very good. So do you have a question or comment? And speak up just a little louder, please.
Okay, this is it's related but not directly to the subject. We're talking about diabetes before and obesity, and something happened to me recently that kind of was strange. And it's a good thing I listen to shows like this to wake me up to what these doctors are up to. I had my blood drawn, and it was actually a tenth of a point lower than it was the time before. And the time before, they said it was pre-diabetes, but this time, even though it was a tenth of a point lower, they said now it's diabetes because they changed the parameters. What was
your blood sugar?
It wasn't the regular blood sugar. It was another one. It was a 6.7, and the time before that, it was 6.8.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Not really.
Well,
that's a new system.
I would like to say, when you're talking about diabetes, that aspartame is constantly pushed on diabetics, when in fact aspartame can actually precipitate diabetes, simulates and aggravates diabetic retinopathy and neuropathy, destroys the optic nerve, causes diabetics to go into convulsions, and the free methyl alcohol often makes them lose their limbs. It interacts with insulin. So if you want to kill a diabetic, aspartame will do it. And yet they constantly say, if you're diabetic, you should use aspartame. So we now have an epidemic of obesity. We have an epidemic of diabetes. And, of course, aspartame is responsible for both.
Well, Larry, what do they want to do? Do they want to put you on to insulin? Do they want to put you on diet? Or do they want to put you on some sort of an oral medicine, oral poison?
Yeah, he told me that I have to take this medicine for the rest of my life and change my habits. Otherwise, I'm going to die.
Well, I would get a second opinion. I would go to a doctor who practices alternative medicine and get his opinion before you get on the medicine, because some of these medicines do irretrievable damage. Do not rush into anything. The doctor is trapped in the system. I mean, if he doesn't go along with this, if he tries to think on his own, they'll come after him and make his life miserable. And so basically, to find a doctor who does alternative medicine, get his opinion. But you want to get best to get an MD who does alternative medicine, but some of these people are very well trained and they have very, very good treatments. But don't get started on a medicine for the rest of your life before you're absolutely certain.
Yeah,
just because they change the parameters, just because somebody changes the parameters, and wants to get you onto thyroid, or they want to get you onto blood pressure medication, they want to get you onto cholesterol medication. We're talking about, with the cholesterol, with the statin drugs, we're talking about $20 or $30 billion a year for a medicine that in most instances does absolutely no good and can do irretrievable harm by suppressing the CoQ10 10, and taking people into congestive heart failure, rhabdomyolysis, and produce cancer, and upset your whole immune system. Basically, you need the cholesterol. And when I went to medical school, why the acceptable level of cholesterol was 280. Now they want to get it down near below 200, and it's criminal what's going on. The doctor's trapped in the system. You get another opinion from somebody who is in alternative medicine, okay?
Yes, thanks, Doc.
Okay, God bless. And again, our telephone number, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. If you want to give us that would be for the next hour. But for this hour, if you want to call Betty, this hour you have to call 1-800-259-5791, 1-800-259-5791, the 888 numbers for the next hour. And if you have a question, this is such an important subject because, the first adage of medicine is first do no harm. The doctor doesn't know. He goes to these meetings and they tell him all these things that aren't true, and he's required to go to the meetings because he has to have CME credits. And I go to the meetings and I shudder sometimes when I see what they're telling the doctors. Unfortunately, the doctors believe it. Go right ahead, Betty.
Well, I would like to make the comment, too, is that what the question that people have is, okay, so we know aspartame's a poison. We know about Splenda. They changed the hydroxyls from sugar to chlorine. Sulfine potassium caused cancer and leukemia in original studies. What is a person to do? So people should know that there is one safe sweetener called just like sugar, and Dr. Russell Blaylock said finally a safe sweetener has no additives in it whatsoever, and it's made with chicory, which has been used for 70 years to improve the health of diabetics. So there is something out there that they can use, and they're now making gum. Gum is one of the most serious products there is with aspartame in it, because it works like nitroglycerin under the tongue, goes through saliva straight to the brain. And they keep adding more and more aspartame into gums. And in 2004, someone actually sued the Wrigley's. They sued the American Diabetes Association for racketeering, trying to, alert the public of what was going on.
What happened to the lawsuit? Did they buy out the lawyers like they usually do?
Well, yeah, they were very, very powerful. In the case of Wrigley's, I mean, even though they were able to get out of it, they were so arrogant, they turned right around and put aspartame in all the gum except for two. And then they sold to Mars. So I called up Mars and I said, have you got aspartame in any of your products? And they said, well, yes, we do in the Mars bars. And I said, well, that's odd. I don't see it on the label. They said, well, it's under natural flavors. So, in other words, this is with full knowledge.
In other words, they lie. They lie and they lie.
Absolutely.
But when it says natural flavors, you shouldn't be eating anything with natural flavor in it, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to start looking after yourself and your family. Place to really start learning about this would be Betty Martini's website and Russell Blaylock's book, Health and Nutrition Secrets That Can Save Your Life. Those secrets really can save your life and your family. But you've got to be involved. You can't sit back because there's no second chance. We'll be right back with Betty. Give us a call. Well, Dr. Stan here at the Genesis Communication Network, coming to you from the hills overlooking beautiful and picturesque Monterey Bay. Our guest is Betty Martini. Our telephone number, 1-800-259-5791. That's 1-800-259-5791. And we've got Bob calling from Pennsylvania. Hi, Bob. Question or comment?
I actually have a story, Dr. Stan, for your guest, Betty. An aspartame story.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. About 3 years ago, my wife and I were going on vacation for a week. We were driving down to Maryland. And we're driving down the road, and in traffic on 995, and she said, something's wrong, and the car started slowing down. I said, what's the matter? She says, I can't see. I'm blind. I said, you're blind? And we're driving down the road 60 miles an hour. So thank God I grabbed the wheel, and long story short, I got us off the road. Well, we came back, and she had all this work done. She went to the hospital, had a scan done, and everything else, and they found nothing. So I'm listening to, I believe it was Alex Jones one day on GCN, and he was talking about aspartame, and he mentioned the side effects of it. And so I walked over, opened up the refrigerator, and here her yogurt had aspartame in it.